Hey there, friends. Get ready, because I'm about to tell you a super fun story. It's wild, it's crazy, and it's got chickens, a mean neighbor, and a big surprise. Imagine a sunny day in a little place called Maple Grove. It's a quiet neighborhood where people usually mind their own business. The houses sit close together, with neat little yards and white fences. Kids play outside sometimes, riding bikes or chasing each other. Dogs bark now and then. It's the kind of place where you know your neighbors' names, but you don't always talk to them every day. Well, almost everyone kept to themselves except for one lady. Her name was Karen, and oh boy, was she something else. Karen was the boss of the HOA. That's a group that makes rules for the neighborhood, like telling you what color your house can be or how short your grass should stay. Karen didn't just follow those rules, she acted like she made them all herself. She walked around with her nose in the air, like she owned every single piece of dirt, every tree, and every blade of grass in Maple Grove. If you left a bike on your lawn, she'd knock on your door and tell you to move it. If your dog barked too loud, she'd write you a note. Karen thought she was the queen of everything. And then there was me, Jake. I'm just a regular guy. I'm not loud or fancy. I don't boss people around. I like simple things, like sitting on my porch with a cold drink or playing catch with my little cousin. But my favorite thing? Raising chickens. Yup, you heard that right, chickens. I've got a few of them in my backyard. They cluck and peck and lay eggs, and I think they're the coolest pets ever. I built them a little house called a coop, with a red roof and a tiny door. It's like a mini farm right behind my house. My chickens are my buddies, and I take good care of them. But out of all my chickens, one was super special. His name was Rocket, and he wasn't just any old bird. Rocket was a rooster, a big, proud one with a loud voice and feathers that shone like gold in the sun. He had a bright red comb on his head, like a little crown, and his tail was a mix of green and black that sparkled when he strutted around. Rocket wasn't just pretty, though he was a winner. Last summer, I took him to the county fair. That's a big event where people show off their animals, like cows, pigs, and chickens. Rocket stood tall in his cage, crowing loud and proud. The judges loved him. They gave him a blue ribbon, the first place prize. I was so happy I could have jumped to the moon. Rocket was my champ, my star, my best feathered friend. Every morning, Rocket woke me up with his big, loud cock-a-doodle-doo. It was like my own alarm clock, but way better. I'd go outside with a handful of corn, and he'd run over, flapping his wings like he was saying, "Good morning, Jake." My other chickens were cool, but Rocket? He was the king of the coop. I'd sit by the fence sometimes, just watching him strut around, his shiny feathers catching the light. It made me smile every time. Life was good in my little backyard farm. But here's where the trouble starts. Not everyone loved Rocket as much as I did. And guess who hated him the most? Yup, Karen, the HOA queen. She lived right next door to me, in a house with perfect flowers and a mailbox that never had a scratch. Her yard was so clean you could eat off the grass, well, if you wanted to eat grass, I guess. But Rocket? Oh, Karen couldn't stand him. Every time he crowed, she'd pop her head over the fence and glare at me. Her eyes would get all squinty, and her mouth would turn into a grumpy line. "That bird is too loud, Jake," she'd snap. "It's against the rules. This is a quiet neighborhood." I didn't get why she was so mad. Rocket wasn't that loud. Okay, maybe he was loud if you weren't used to roosters, but to me, it was just his way of saying hello to the world. Besides, my chickens were allowed. I checked the HOA rules myself, there was nothing about no chickens. I even showed Karen the paper once, but she just huffed and said, "We'll see about that." I'd just shrug and smile. "He's not hurting anyone, Karen," I'd say. "Maybe you'll like him someday." Then I'd wave and walk away, thinking she'd chill out eventually. Roosters crow, the sun shines, the world keeps spinning, right? Oh, man, was I wrong about that? I thought Karen was just grumpy. I thought she'd complain a little and then forget about it, like when she got mad at Mr. Thompson for painting his shed blue. She fussed for a week, then moved on. But with Rocket? Nope. Karen wasn't just annoyed, she was mad. And not the kind of mad that goes away. It was the kind of mad that sits in your belly and grows bigger every day, like a balloon about to pop. She didn't just want Rocket to be quiet. She wanted him gone. And I had no idea what she was planning. See, that sunny Saturday started like any other day. The sky was blue, with fluffy white clouds floating around. Birds chirped, not just Rocket, but little sparrows and robins too. I woke up to Rocket's big crow, same as always. I yawned, stretched, and pulled on my sneakers. Time to feed the crew, I said to myself, grabbing a scoop of chicken feed from the shed. I whistled as I walked to the coop, the sun warm on my face. It was gonna be a good day, or so I thought. The coop sat in the corner of my yard, right by the fence that separated my place from Karen's. It was a happy little spot, with green grass and a few daisies growing wild. My chickens clucked softly as I got closer, knowing breakfast was coming. I could see their little heads poking out of the coop, all excited. But Rocket? He was the star of the show. He'd puff up his chest and strut out first, like he was saying, "Me first, Jake." I'd laugh and toss him some extra corn, just because he was so cool. That morning, though, something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it yet, but there was a funny feeling in my chest. Maybe it was the way the air was too still, or how the usual sounds like kids laughing or a lawnmower buzzing weren't there. I shook my head and told myself I was being silly. "It's just a quiet day," I mumbled, opening the coop gate. The chickens scurried out, pecking at the ground, but Rocket was already doing his thing, crowing loud enough to wake up the whole street. I grinned. "That's my boy," I said, tossing feed into the yard. The chickens went nuts, running around like it was a party. I leaned against the fence, watching them, feeling proud. Rocket flapped his wings and did a little dance, his feathers shining so bright they almost hurt my eyes. "You're a superstar, buddy," I told him. He cocked his head, like he understood me, and I laughed. Everything was perfect. But then I heard a huff. A loud, annoyed huff. I turned my head, and there she was, Karen. She stood on her side of the fence, arms crossed, glaring at Rocket like he'd just stolen her favorite shoes. Her hair was pulled back tight, and her lips were pressed into that grumpy line again. "Jake," she barked. "That bird woke me up again. I'm sick of it." I stayed calm. I'd heard this before. "Morning, Karen," I said with a wave. "He's just doing what roosters do. It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal," she shouted. "It's a noise machine. I'm trying to sleep, and that thing is ruining my life." She pointed at Rocket, who didn't even notice her. He was too busy pecking at some corn, happy as could be. "He's not that bad," I said, trying not to laugh. "Maybe get some earplugs." "Earplugs?" Karen's face turned pink. "I shouldn't have to change my life because of your stupid bird. This is a quiet neighborhood, Jake." "Quiet? And you're breaking the rules." "There's no rule against chickens," I said, keeping my voice nice and easy. I checked. "Rocket's allowed to be here." Karen's eyes got narrower. "Oh, we'll see about that," she hissed. "You think you're so smart, huh? Well, I've had enough." Then she spun around and stormed back into her house, slamming the door so hard I felt it in my shoes. I stood there, blinking. "Sheesh," I muttered. "What's her problem?" Rocket crowed again, like he was agreeing with me, and I chuckled. "Don't worry, buddy," I said, patting the fence. "She's all talk. She'll get over it." I turned back to the coop, tossing a little more feed to the chickens. Karen could huff and puff all she wanted, Rocket wasn't going anywhere. But here's the thing I didn't know yet, Karen wasn't just talk. She wasn't like the wind that blows loud and then calms down. No, Karen was like a storm waiting to hit. She'd been watching Rocket for weeks, listening to him crow, getting madder and madder every day. And that Saturday? That sunny, quiet Saturday? It wasn't just another day for her. It was the day she decided to do something big. Something sneaky. Something that would flip my whole world upside down. I didn't see it coming. Not even a little bit. I thought Karen was just grumpy, like a cat that didn't get its nap. I thought she'd complain, maybe write me a mean note, and that'd be it. But oh, no. Karen had a plan, a secret, tricky plan. She wasn't just mad at Rocket. She wanted him out of the picture. And not just out of my yard, out of everything. She'd been cooking up this idea in her head, waiting for the right moment to strike. And that moment? It was coming faster than I could have ever guessed. See, while I was tossing feet and laughing with my chickens, Karen was inside her perfect house, pacing back and forth. Her windows were shut tight, but I bet she could still hear rockets crow through the glass. Each cock-a-doodle-doo made her angrier. She didn't care that he was my pride and joy. She didn't care that he'd won a blue ribbon or that his feathers shone like a rainbow. To her, Rocket was a problem, a loud, feathery problem she was done putting up with. And me? Poor, silly Jake. I had no clue. I was just a guy who loved his rooster, living my simple life in Maple Grove. I thought the day would go on like any other: feed the chickens, mow the lawn, maybe grab a burger later. I didn't know that Karen was about to pull the sneakiest, wildest move I'd ever seen. I didn't know my perfect Saturday was about to turn into a big, messy adventure. But it was. Oh, it was. And it all started with Rocket, that big, beautiful rooster who had no idea what was coming. Karen had her eyes on him, and she wasn't just glaring anymore. She was planning. Scheming. Getting ready to make her move. And when she did, well, that's when everything got crazy. So, what do you think, friends? Can you guess what Karen's up to? She's mad, she's sneaky, and she's got Rocket in her sights. What would you do if your neighbor hated your favorite pet? Drop your ideas in the comments, I can't wait to hear them. Stick with me, because this story's just getting started, and trust me, it's gonna be a wild one. Okay, friends, here's where the story gets really exciting. It's the part where everything starts to feel wild and scary. Imagine this: it's a bright, sunny morning in Maple Grove. The birds are chirping, the grass is green, and I'm ready for a great day with my chickens. I stretch my arms, yawn real big, and hop out of bed. Usually, I hear Rocket right away, his big, loud cock-a-doodle-doo, that wakes up the whole world. It's like music to me, telling me it's time to get up and feed my feathered buddies. But this morning? Something's wrong. Really, really wrong. I sit up in bed, rubbing my eyes, waiting for that sound. But, nothing. Silence. Total, creepy silence. No crowing. No clucking. Just quiet, like the world forgot to wake up. My heart starts beating fast, thumping in my chest like a drum. Rocket always crows in the morning. Every day, no matter what. Where is he? What's going on? I jump out of bed, not even bothering to fix my messy hair or grab a snack. Something's not right, and I need to find out what it is fast. I pull on my sneakers, not even tying the laces, and run outside. The sun is shining, the air smells fresh, but I don't care about any of that. My eyes go straight to the chicken coop in the corner of my yard. It's a little wooden house with a red roof, where Rocket and the other chickens sleep. I race over, my feet pounding the grass, my breath puffing out quick and loud. Rocket! I call. You okay, buddy? No answer. No crow. Just more silence. When I get to the coop, I stop dead in my tracks. My mouth drops open, and my stomach feels like it's falling to my toes. The coop is empty. Empty. No Rocket, no chickens, nothing. The door is wide open, swinging a little in the breeze, like someone forgot to close it, or worse, like someone opened it on purpose. I step closer, my hands shaking, and that's when I see it: feathers. Rocket's shiny, golden feathers, scattered all over the ground. They're everywhere, on the dirt, in the grass, stuck to the side of the coop. It looks like a big mess, like something bad happened here. I bend down and pick up one of the feathers. It's soft and pretty, just like Rocket. My throat gets tight, and my eyes sting a little. Where is he? Did he run away? Did something take him? My brain is spinning with questions, and I feel sick. Rocket's not just any bird, he's my best pal, my prize rooster, the king of my backyard. I can't lose him. I won't. Then I notice something else. The feathers don't just stop at the coop. They make a little trail, like breadcrumbs in a fairy tale, leading away from my yard. I follow them, step by step, my heart pounding louder with every move. The trail goes through the grass, past my old swing set, and right up to the fence. The tall, white fence that separates my yard from Karen's. Oh no. Oh no, no, No. I peek over the top, standing on my tiptoes, and there she is, Karen. She's in her backyard, wearing a big apron and holding a broom like it's a prize. She's sweeping her perfect patio, but she's not mad or grumpy like usual. She's smirking. Smirking. That's a sneaky little smile, like she knows something I don't. Her eyes are all sparkly, and she looks way too happy for someone who hates mornings. My tummy twists even more. What's she up to? Karen. I shout, my voice loud and shaky. I grip the fence so hard my fingers hurt. Where's Rocket? What did you do? She stops sweeping and turns to me real slow, like she's in no hurry at all. Her smirk gets bigger, and she tilts her head, pretending to look surprised. Oh, Jake, she says, her voice all sweet and fake. That noisy thing? You mean that awful bird? She waves her hand like it's no big deal. I took care of it. You're welcome. Then she gives me a little wink, turns around, and marches right into her house. The door slams shut, bam, and I'm left standing there, staring at nothing. Took care of it? Took care of it? What does that even mean? My head feels like it's spinning in circles. Did she scare him away? Did she hurt him? My fists clench tight, and I feel hot all over, like steam's about to come out of my ears. Rocket's not just a noisy thing, he's my family. He's the best rooster ever, with his shiny feathers and loud crow. He's not some problem to take care of. How could she say that? How could she do that? I run to her door and bang on it with both hands. Karen. Open up. Where's my rooster? I yell. My voice echoes down the street, but she doesn't answer. The house stays quiet, like she's hiding inside, laughing at me. I knock again, harder this time, but still nothing. My hands hurt from pounding, and my throat feels scratchy from shouting. I step back, breathing fast, trying to think. What do I do? Where's Rocket? Is he okay? That's when I smell it. Something yummy, something warm and smoky, floating through the air. I turn my head, sniffing like a dog, and the smell's coming from Karen's backyard. It's food, good food, like meat cooking over a fire. My eyes go wide. Karen's having a barbecue tonight. She told me about it a few days ago, all proud and bossy. Big party, Jake, she'd said. Everyone's coming. You should too. I didn't think much of it then, but now. Now it hits me like a brick. My stomach drops all the way to my feet. Rocket's missing. Karen's smirking. And she's cooking something for her barbecue. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Is Rocket on the menu? Did she take him to cook him? My knees feel wobbly, and I grab the fence to stay standing. That can't be true. She wouldn't do that, would she? But the more I think about it, the worse it feels. Karen hates Rocket. She's been mad about him forever. And now he's gone, and she's acting all sneaky and happy. It's too weird. Too awful. I peek over the fence again, trying to see more. Her backyard looks fancy, like always, tables set up, flowers in pots, a big grill smoking away. But I don't see Rocket. No feathers, no clucking, nothing. Just Karen's stuff, all perfect and ready for her big night. My heart sinks. If she really took him, if she really cooked him, I don't know what I'll do. I feel mad and sad and scared all at once, like a big storm inside me. I take a deep breath and try to calm down. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Rocket's somewhere else. Maybe he got out and ran off, and Karen's just messing with me. She's mean, sure, but would she really steal my rooster and turn him into dinner? I shake my head, trying to push that thought away, but it keeps coming back. Her words echo in my ears, I took care of it. You're welcome. That smirk. That wink. It's like she's playing a game, and I'm losing. I look at the trail of feathers again. They stop at the fence, but I bet they keep going on her side. I want to climb over and look, but her yard's locked up tight. She's got a big gate with a shiny padlock, and I don't have the key. My hands shake as I grab the fence, wishing I could see more. Rocket's out there somewhere, I know it. And Karen knows where he is. She's hiding something, and I've got to figure it out. The smell from her grill gets stronger, and my tummy twists again. I picture Rocket, with his shiny feathers and proud strut, and then I picture, ugh, I can't even say it. I squeeze my eyes shut, trying to make the bad thoughts go away. He's okay, I whisper to myself. He's got to be okay. But I don't know for sure, and that's the worst part. Not knowing is like a big, heavy rock sitting on my chest. I step away from the fence and look around my yard. It feels empty without Rocket. The other chickens are gone too, but I'm not even thinking about them right now. Rocket's the one I care about most. He's the one I need to find. And Karen? She's the key. She did something, I'm sure of it. But what? And how do I prove it? My fists unclench, and I wipe my sweaty hands on my shorts. I'm mad, so mad I could yell forever, but I'm scared too. Rocket's my buddy, my champ. If Karen hurt him, if she took him away, I don't know how I'll handle it. But I can't just stand here. I've got to do something. I've got to find him. And I've got to make Karen tell me the truth. The sun's still shining, the day's still bright, but it doesn't feel happy anymore. It feels wrong, like a puzzle with a missing piece. I take one more look at Karen's house, her closed door, her smoky backyard. She thinks she's won. She thinks she's smarter than me. But this isn't over. Not even close. So, what do you think, friends? What's Karen hiding? Did she really take Rocket for her barbecue, or is something else going on? I'm freaking out over here, and okay, friends, things are heating up now. I wasn't going to just stand there and let Karen get away with stealing my rooster. No way. Rocket was my best buddy, my prize-winning champ, and I had to find him. My heart was still racing from seeing his empty coop, and my head was full of questions. Did Karen really take him? Was he okay? Was he, dinner? Ugh, that thought made my tummy twist like a pretzel. I couldn't sit still, I had to do something, and I had to do it fast. So, I decided to start asking around. Maybe someone in Maple Grove saw something. Maybe someone knew what Karen was up to. I pulled on my sneakers, lacing them up this time, and ran out to the street. The sun was high in the sky, shining bright, and the neighborhood looked peaceful. Kids were riding bikes, a dog barked somewhere, and lawns were all green and neat. But I didn't feel peaceful. I felt mad and worried, like a storm was brewing inside me. First stop? My buddy Tom's house. Tom lived right next door to me, in a little blue house with a rusty old basketball hoop out front. He's a cool guy, tall, with messy hair and a big laugh. We've been friends forever, and he knows all about Rocket. He even helped me build the chicken coop last summer, hammering nails and painting the roof red. If anyone saw something sneaky, it'd be Tom. I knocked on his door, bang, 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 and waited, hopping from one foot to the other. My hands were sweaty, and my stomach felt all jumpy. The door creaked open, and there was Tom, still in his pajamas, holding a bowl of cereal. "Hey, Jake," he said, munching a spoonful. "What's up? You look freaked out." "Tom," I said, my voice loud and fast. "Rocket's gone. His coop's empty, and I think Karen took him. Did you see anything last night? Anything at all?" Tom's eyes got wide, and he stopped chewing. "Whoa, hold up," he said, putting his bowl down on the porch railing. "Rocket's missing? That's nuts. He's, like, the king of chickens." He rubbed his chin, thinking hard, and then his face changed like he just remembered something big. "Wait a sec," he said, leaning closer. "Last night, I was up late playing video games. It was dark, way past bedtime, and I saw something weird out my window." My heart skipped a beat. "What? What did you see?" I asked, stepping closer. Tom pointed toward my yard. "I saw Karen. She was sneaking around by your fence, all quiet like. She had a big sack in her hands, a lumpy, wiggly sack. I thought it was trash or something, but she was moving fast, like she didn't want anyone to see her. She went into your yard, then came back out real quick and disappeared behind her house." "A sack?" I yelled, my mouth dropping open. "A wiggly sack. Tom, that could have been Rocket. She stuffed him in there." My brain was spinning. A sack meant she didn't just scare him away, she took him. She grabbed my rooster and ran off with him. My fists clenched tight, and I felt hot all over. Karen was sneakier than a fox in a henhouse. Tom nodded, looking serious. Yeah, man, it was weird. I didn't think much of it then, I was half asleep, but now? Sounds like she nabbed him. What are you gonna do? I don't know yet, I said, pacing back and forth on his porch. But thanks, Tom. That's huge. She's got him, I know it. I gave him a quick wave and ran off, my sneakers slapping the pavement. Tom called after me, "Good luck, Jake," but I was already halfway down the street. My mind was racing. Karen with a sack. Late at night? This was bad. Really bad. But it also gave me hope. If she took him in a sack, maybe he was still okay. Maybe he wasn't, cooked yet. Next, I needed more clues. I kept running, my legs pumping fast, until I saw little Sophie playing hopscotch on the sidewalk. Sophie's only 8, with pigtails and a big smile. She lives a few houses down, and she loves my chickens. She'd come over sometimes with her mom, bringing carrot scraps to feed them. Rocket was her favorite, she'd giggle every time he crowed, clapping her hands like it was a show. "Sophie!" I shouted, skidding to a stop. She looked up, chalk in her hand, and waved. "Hi, Jake," she chirped. "Wanna play?" "No time," I said, catching my breath. "Sophie, this is serious. Rocket's gone. I think Karen took him. Did you see anything? Hear anything?" Sophie's smile dropped, and her eyes got big. "Rocket's gone," she said, her voice all wobbly. "Oh no. He's the best rooster ever." She dropped her chalk and hopped over to me, her pigtails bouncing. Wait, I did hear something. This morning, when I was eating my pancakes, I heard clucking. It wasn't from your yard, though. It was over there." She pointed down the street right toward Karen's house. "Clucking?" I said, my heart jumping. "Where, Sophie? Where exactly?" She scrunched her nose, thinking hard. "By Karen's shed," she said. "You know, that little building in her backyard?" I was on my swing, and I heard it cluck, cluck, cluck. Like a chicken, for sure. I thought it was weird, 'cause Karen doesn't have chickens. She's always yelling about them being noisy. I grabbed her shoulders gently, of course, and grinned. "Sophie, you're a genius. Clucking by her shed? That's Rocket. He's alive." My whole body felt lighter, like a big weight lifted off. If he was clucking this morning, he wasn't dinner yet. He was still out there, somewhere in Karen's yard, waiting for me to save him. Sophie giggled. "I hope you find him, Jake. Rocket's too cool to be gone." "Thanks, Sophie," I said, giving her a high five. Then I took off running again, faster than ever. My sneakers pounded the ground, and my breath came out in big puffs. Clucking by the shed. A sack last night? The pieces were coming together, like a puzzle snapping into place. Karen didn't just take Rocket, she was hiding him. She had him locked up somewhere, and I was gonna find him. I got back to my yard and raced to the fence. My hands were sweaty as I grabbed the top and peeked over into Karen's backyard again. Her place looked perfect, as usual: green grass, pretty flowers, a shiny grill ready for her barbecue. But my eyes went straight to the shed. It was a small wooden thing in the corner, painted white with a slanted roof. The door was closed tight, and I couldn't see inside from here. But Sophie heard clucking, and that's where Rocket had to be. I squinted, looking closer, and then bam, I saw him. Rocket. My rooster was in there. The shed door had a tiny crack, and through it, I could see his shiny feathers and red comb. He was tied up with a rope, his wings flapping a little, looking mad as heck. His head bobbed back and forth, like he was yelling at the world to let him out. I almost shouted for joy, but I clapped my hand over my mouth instead. There he was, alive. My best buddy was okay. But then I froze. Karen was out there too, just a few steps away. She was setting up tables for her barbecue, laughing and talking loud with her HOA friends. She had a big apron on, and she was waving her arms, acting all proud. "Oh, you're gonna love tonight," she said to them. I've got a special dinner planned, something really tasty. Her friends clapped and cheered, and Karen grinned like she was the smartest person ever. My stomach flipped. Special dinner? Tasty. She'd said the same thing to me earlier that week. You'll love the main course, Jake, she'd told me, all smug and sneaky. Back then, I thought she was just bragging about burgers or hot dogs. But now I knew better. She wasn't talking about regular food. She was talking about Rocket. She was bold, too bold. She stole my rooster, tied him up, and now she was gonna cook him for her big party. She even invited me to eat him. That was crazy. Mean. Awful. I ducked down behind the fence, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. Rocket was alive for now, but he wasn't safe. Karen had him trapped, and her barbecue was tonight. The clock was ticking, and I had to act fast. I wanted to climb the fence right then and there, bust into that shed, and grab my rooster. I could picture it, me jumping over, kicking the door open, untying Rocket, and running off while Karen yelled. It'd be like a superhero movie. But I stopped myself. The fence was tall, and Karen's gate had a big lock. If I climbed over, she'd see me for sure. Her friends were all around, and they'd probably grab me before I got to the shed. Plus, Karen was already acting like she'd won. She didn't know I'd seen Rocket. She didn't know I was onto her. If I rushed in now, I might mess it all up. I needed a better plan, a smarter plan. I sat there, hiding behind the fence, breathing hard. My brain was buzzing with ideas. Rocket was so close, but I couldn't get to him yet. Karen thought she was in charge, strutting around with her tables and her grill, bragging about her special dinner. She didn't know who she was messing with. I wasn't just some kid with a chicken. I was Jake, Rocket's best friend, and I wasn't gonna let her win. Then it hit me, a light bulb moment. I didn't have to climb the fence. I didn't have to fight her whole HOA crew. I had something better. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, my hands shaking with excitement. One call. That's all it'd take. One call to flip this whole thing upside down. Karen thought she'd gotten away with it, but she was wrong. I had proof. Tom saw her, Sophie heard clucking, and I saw Rocket in her shed. She couldn't hide anymore. I grinned, feeling a little sneaky myself. Karen's barbecue was about to get a big surprise, one she'd never see coming. I tapped my phone screen, my fingers moving fast, and made the call. My heart raced as it rang. Ring, ring, ring. Someone picked up on the other end, and I took a deep breath. Hi, I said, keeping my voice low so Karen wouldn't hear. I need help. It's an emergency. What do you think, friends? Who's Jake calling? How's he gonna save Rocket? Karen's acting all big and bold, but she's in for a shock. Drop your guesses in the comments. I can't wait to see what you come up with. This story's getting wilder every second, and I promise, the next part's gonna be epic. Add your help. Drop your guesses in the comments. I want to hear every idea you've got. Stick with me, because this story's about to get even crazier, and I'm not giving up until I find my rooster. Alright, friends, let's keep this adventure rolling. I was crouched behind the fence, my phone pressed to my ear, heart thumping like a drum. Rocket was still in Karen's shed, tied up and mad, and she was out there acting like she'd already won. Her barbecue was getting closer, and I could hear her laughing with her HOA buddies, setting up chairs and clinking glasses. The smell of smoke from her grill floated over, and it made my tummy twist again. I couldn't let her turn Rocket into her special dinner. No way. I had to save him, and this phone call was my big chance. The line crackled, and a deep voice answered. Hello, Maple Grove Police. What's your emergency? My hands got sweaty, and I peeked over the fence one more time to make sure Karen didn't see me. She was too busy showing off a stack of plates to her friends, so I ducked back down and whispered into the phone. Hi, my name's Jake, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I live on Oak Street, and my rooster's been stolen. His name's Rocket, and I think my neighbor Karen took him. She's got him in her shed right now. I saw him. The police guy paused, like he was writing something down. A rooster, huh, he said. That's a new one. You're sure she stole him? Yes. I said, a little louder than I meant to. I lowered my voice again. My friend Tom saw her sneaking around my yard last night with a sack. And little Sophie down the street heard clucking by Karen's shed this morning. I looked over the fence, and he's there tied up. She's gonna cook him for her barbecue tonight. Please, you've got to help me. Okay, Jake, calm down, the police guy said. We'll send someone over to check it out. Stay where you are, and don't do anything crazy, all right? We'll be there soon. Got it, I said, my heart racing even faster. Thanks. I hung up and shoved the phone back in my pocket. The police were coming. This was it. Karen's sneaky plan was about to fall apart. I could hardly sit still. I wanted to jump up and cheer, but I had to stay quiet. If Karen saw me now, she might figure out something was up. I had to wait, and waiting was hard. I peeked over the fence again, just a tiny bit, to keep an eye on things. Karen was still busy, dragging a big cooler across her patio. Her friends were helping now. Some guy in a fancy shirt was lighting the grill, and a lady with a big hat was putting napkins on the tables. They were all smiling and chatting, like it was the best day ever. Karen clapped her hands and said, "Oh, this barbecue's gonna be the talk of the town. Wait till you taste the main course." Her voice was loud and proud, and it made my skin crawl. She was so sure of herself, so cocky. She had no idea what was coming. Rocket was still in the shed, and I could see him through that little crack in the door. His feathers puffed up every time he moved, and his head jerked back and forth. He looked annoyed, like he was saying, "Let me out of here, Jake." I whispered under my breath, "Hang on, buddy. Help's on the way." Seeing him alive kept me going, but it also made me madder. Karen stole him, tied him up, and now she was bragging about it. She thought I'd just give up? Nope. Not a chance. I slid back down behind the fence and sat on the grass, hugging my knees. My mind was buzzing like a beehive. The police would be here soon, but what if they didn't believe me? What if Karen lied and said Rocket was hers? She was tricky like that. She'd probably smile all sweet and say, "Oh, officer, this is my Rooster." Jake's just confused. I had to be ready. I had Tom and Sophie's stories, and I saw Rocket myself. That was proof, right? It had to be enough. While I waited, I started thinking about how this all happened. Karen hated Rocket from day one. Every time he crowed, she'd stomp over and yell at me. "Too loud," she'd say. "Against the rules." I'd tell her the HOA rules let me have chickens, but she didn't care. She'd huff and puff and storm off, like she was planning something big. And now I knew she was planning something. Sneaking into my yard with a sack. That took guts. Mean, sneaky guts. I looked around my yard, at the empty coop and the scattered feathers. It made me sad, but it also made me tough. Rocket was counting on me. I couldn't let him down. I stood up and brushed the dirt off my shorts, feeling stronger. Karen wasn't gonna win this. Not today, not ever. Then I heard something, tires crunching on the street. I peeked around the corner of my house, and there it was, a police car, rolling up slow and quiet. My heart jumped into my throat. They were here. Two officers stepped out, one tall with a mustache, the other shorter with a notepad. They looked serious, but calm, like they'd seen stuff like this before. I ran over, waving my arms. "Over here," I said, keeping my voice low. "It's me, Jake." The tall officer nodded. "You the kid who called about a rooster?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, pointing at Karen's house. "She's got him in her shed. I saw him, and my friends saw her sneaking around. She's gonna cook him for her barbecue." The shorter officer raised an eyebrow. "Cook him, huh? That's a bold move. Let's go take a look." They started walking toward Karen's gate, and I followed close behind, my legs all wobbly with excitement. This was at the moment everything would change. We got to the fence, and the tall officer peeked over, just like I did. "Yup," he said. "There's a rooster in there, all right. Tied up tight." He turned to me. "You sure he's yours, kid?" "Positive," I said. "His name's Rocket. He's got shiny feathers and a red comb. He won first place at the county fair. Karen hates him. She's been mad about him forever. The officers nodded at each other. All right, the tall one said. Let's talk to this Karen lady. They walked to her front door, and I stayed back by the fence, watching. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. The shorter officer knocked, knock, 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 and we waited. The door swung open, and there was Karen, still in her apron, smiling big. Oh, hello, officers, she said, all cheery. What's going on? Her voice was sweet, like she was offering them cookies, but I could see her eyes flicker. She was nervous. She didn't expect this. Ma'am, the tall officer said, we got a report about a stolen rooster. Mind if we check your shed? Karen's smile froze. Hey, rooster, she said, laughing a little. That's silly. I don't have any rooster. Jake's just making trouble, he's always been a pest. My jaw dropped. A pest? Me. She was lying right to their faces. I wanted to yell, but the shorter officer held up a hand to stop me. We'll just take a quick look, he said. Won't take long. Karen's face turned pink, and she crossed her arms. Well, fine, she snapped. But you're wasting your time. She led them around to her backyard, and I followed, staying a few steps behind. Her HOA friends stopped talking and stared as we walked past the tables and grill. The air smelled like smoke and food, and my tummy flipped again. Rocket was so close I could almost feel him. We got to the shed, and the tall officer opened the door. There he was, Rocket. He flapped his wings and clucked loud, like he was saying, finally. The officers stepped back, and Karen's mouth fell open. That's, she stammered, that's not mine. Then why's he tied up in your shed? The shorter officer asked, writing in his notepad. Karen's face went from pink to red, and she started talking fast. I found him. He was loose, making noise, so I put him there to keep him safe. I was gonna tell Jake, I swear. Her voice was all squeaky now, and her hands waved around like crazy. I stepped forward. That's not true. Tom saw you sneak into my yard with a sack last night, and Sophie heard clucking here this morning. You stole him, Karen. The officers looked at her, then at me, then back at her. We'll need to sort this out, the tall one said. Ma'am, you're coming with us to answer some questions. Karen's eyes got huge, and she started yelling, this is ridiculous. It's just a chicken. But the officers didn't budge. They were serious now. I grinned as they led her away. Rocket was still in the shed, and I knew he'd be back with me soon. Karen's barbecue was falling apart, her friends were whispering, the grill was smoking, and she was in big trouble. My plan worked. But this wasn't the end yet. I had to get Rocket out, and I had to make sure Karen learned her lesson. Okay, friends, this is the most exciting part of the story. Everything's been building up to this moment, and it's gonna be wild. The sun was going down in Maple Grove, turning the sky all orange and pink. Karen's barbecue was rocking, her backyard was full of people, music was blasting loud, and everyone was laughing and having fun. Tables were covered with red checkered cloths, and the grill was smoking like crazy, sending yummy smells all over the place. Kids were running around, grown ups were chatting, and Karen? Oh, she was right in the middle of it all, acting like the queen of the party. She stood there by the grill, wearing her big apron with flowers on it. Her hair was pulled back tight, and she had this smug little smile like she thought she was the smartest person ever. In her hands, she held a big platter, the kind you put fancy food on. It had a shiny silver lid covering it, so no one could see what was underneath. She waved it around, showing off to her guests, and they all clapped and cheered. Time for the main event, she shouted, her voice loud and proud. She winked at them, like she had a big secret, and started to lift the lid real slow, teasing everyone. My tummy flipped, and my hands got all sweaty. I was hiding behind the fence, watching everything, and my blood felt hot like it was boiling inside me. That platter? I knew what she was planning. She stole Rocket, my best rooster, and now she was gonna serve him up as her special dinner. She'd been bragging about it all week, telling me, you'll love the main course, Jake, with that sneaky grin. I wanted to run out and stop her right then, but I didn't. I waited. Timing was everything, and I had a surprise of my own coming. Just as Karen's fingers lifted the lid a tiny bit, just as her friends leaned in to see something amazing happened. Red and blue lights started flashing down the street. They bounced off the houses, making everything look like a movie. A police car rolled up, slow and steady, right in front of Karen's yard. The music was still blaring, but people stopped talking. Heads turned, eyes got big, and the whole party froze. Two police officers stepped out of the car, their boots crunching on the gravel. One was tall with a mustache, Officer Daniels, and the other was shorter, holding a little notebook. And guess who was right behind them? Me, Jake. I walked out from my hiding spot, my sneakers quiet on the grass, grinning ear to ear. I couldn't help it, I was so excited. This was it, the big moment I'd been waiting for. Karen's party was about to get a whole lot less fun for her, anyway. The crowd went dead silent, like someone turned off a switch. You could hear a pin drop, even with the music still going. Everyone stared at the officers, then at me, then at Karen. Karen's jaw dropped so far I thought it might hit the ground. Her eyes got huge, and the platter wobbled in her hands. What? She stammered, her voice all shaky now. She wasn't smug anymore, she looked scared. What's going on? She said, trying to laugh, but it came out weird, like a hiccup. Officer Daniels stepped forward, his voice calm but strong. Evening, ma'am, he said, tipping his hat a little. We got a report of stolen property. Mind if we check your shed? He didn't smile, but he didn't look mad either, just serious, like he meant business. Karen's face froze, and she blinked fast, like she couldn't believe it. Stolen property, she said, her voice getting squeaky. This is ridiculous. There's nothing in my shed. Jake, you little, she turned to me, pointing a shaky finger, her eyes all squinty and mean. She wanted to yell at me, call me names, but she didn't get the chance. I cut her off, stepping forward with my chest puffed out. My rooster's in there, I said, loud and clear, pointing right at the shed. She took him last night. That's theft, Karen. My voice was strong, I wasn't scared of her anymore. She'd been sneaky, but I was smarter. I had the police on my side now, and she couldn't hide what she did. The crowd gasped, like in a cartoon, everyone sucking in air at once. People started whispering, turning to each other with big eyes. A rooster, one lady said. She stole a chicken, a guy muttered. Karen's friends looked at her funny now, like they didn't know what to think. The air felt buzzy, like something huge was about to happen. Officer Daniels nodded at me, then looked at Karen. Let's take a look, he said, and he started walking toward the shed with the other officer right behind him. I followed close, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. Karen tried to stop them, waving her hands like a crazy bird. Wait, she shouted. You don't need to do that. It's just a silly chicken. This is my party, you're ruining it. But the officers didn't stop. They kept walking, their boots making little thumps on the grass. Karen's face turned redder than the barbecue sauce dripping off her grill. She dropped the platter back on the table with a loud clang, and it wobbled but didn't fall. This is nonsense, she shrieked, stomping after them. Jake's lying. He's a troublemaker. I didn't say anything, I just smirked. She could yell all she wanted, but the truth was coming out. We got to the shed, that little white building in the corner of her yard. The door was shut tight, but I knew what was inside. Officer Daniels grabbed the handle and pulled it open with a creak. The crowd leaned in, stretching their necks to see. Karen held her breath, her hands clenched into fists. And there he was, Rocket. My big, beautiful rooster, still tied up with a rope, but alive and kicking. He clucked loud, like a champ, flapping his wings and puffing out his shiny feathers. His red comb bounced as he moved, and his green and gold tail sparkled in the fading sunlight. Cock-a-doodle-doo, he crowed, like he was telling the world he wasn't done yet. I wanted to cheer, but I held it in just barely. The crowd gasped again, even louder this time. It's a rooster, someone yelled. She's got a chicken in there, another voice piped up. People started talking fast, pointing and whispering. Karen's friends stepped back, their mouths open wide. The music kept playing, but no one cared, it was all about Rocket now. Karen's face went from red to purple, like a grape about to pop. It's just a chicken, she screamed, throwing her hands up. This is crazy. You're ruining my party over a stupid bird. Her voice was so high it hurt my ears, and she stomped her foot like a little kid having a fit. Officer Daniels turned to her, his mustache twitching a little. "Ma'am," he said, calm as ever, "this isn't just a chicken. It's stolen property. The boy says it's his, and it looks like you've got it tied up here. That's theft." He pulled out his notebook and started scribbling, his pen moving fast. The other officer nodded, crossing his arms. "Tell it to the judge," Officer Daniels added, not even looking up from his writing. That was it, the big punch. Karen wasn't just caught, she was in real trouble now. The crowd went wild, gasping and chattering like a bunch of bees. "The judge," one lady said. "She's going to court?" a man asked. Everyone was buzzing, and Karen's perfect barbecue was falling apart right in front of her. I couldn't help it, I smirked again, bigger this time. Karen's big night? Officially crashed. Her smug smile was gone, her party was a mess, and Rocket was still clucking like the king he was. She glared at me, her eyes like lasers, but I didn't care. She messed with the wrong guy and the wrong rooster. The officers untied Rocket, and he hopped out of the shed, strutting around like he owned the place. His feathers shone, and he crowed again, loud and proud. I ran over and scooped him up, hugging him tight. "You're safe, buddy," I said, laughing as his wings flapped against me. He clucked in my ear, like he was saying, "Thanks, Jake." My heart felt full like it might burst with happiness. Karen kept yelling, waving her arms at the officers. "This is unfair. It's just a dumb bird. You can't do this." But no one listened. Her friends started packing up, grabbing their bags and whispering to each other. The grill smoked, the music played, but the party was over. The police talked to Karen, telling her she had to come with them to answer questions. She stomped and huffed, but they didn't budge. I stood there with Rocket, watching it all. The sun was almost gone now, just a little glow left in the sky. The red and blue lights flashed, bouncing off Karen's perfect house. My blood wasn't boiling anymore, it was cool and happy. Timing was everything, and I got it just right. Karen thought she'd won, but I turned it all around. Rocket was back, and she was caught. What a night! But it wasn't over yet, not quite. The officers had more to say, and Karen's mess was just starting. I hugged Rocket tighter, grinning at the chaos. This was the big reveal, friends, and it felt awesome. What do you think? Did Karen deserve this? Was Rocket the real hero? Tell me in the comments, I can't wait to hear. Okay, friends, we're at the happy ending now, the part where everything gets fixed and justice wins. The sun was gone, and the sky was dark, full of twinkly stars. Karen's barbecue was a big mess, and the police were still there, making sure she didn't wiggle out of trouble. Officer Daniels and his buddy had just opened the shed door, and Rocket, my amazing rooster, was free at last. They untied the rope around his legs, and he hopped right out, shaking his shiny feathers like nothing could stop him. The tall officer, Officer Daniels, picked Rocket up real gentle and handed him to me. "Here's your bird, kid," he said with a little smile. "Looks like he's glad to see you." I grabbed Rocket and hugged him tight, feeling his soft feathers against my arms. He clucked loud and flapped his wings, like he was saying, "Hey, Jake, I'm back." His red comb bounced, and his green and gold tail sparkled under Karen's patio lights. I laughed big and happy because my best buddy was safe. Rocket didn't just sit there, though. Oh no. He started strutting around my feet, puffing out his chest and crowing like he owned the whole yard. And you know what? He kinda did. He was the king of chickens, the star of Maple Grove, and he wasn't scared one bit. I set him down and let him walk, watching him march back and forth like a little soldier. "That's my boy," I said, grinning so wide my face hurt. The crowd, well, what was left of it, watched too, whispering and pointing at him. "Look at that rooster," someone said. "He's so cool," another voice added. Rocket was stealing the show, and I loved it. Meanwhile, Karen was in big trouble. Officer Daniels turned to her, his notebook still in his hand. "Ma'am," he said, all serious, "you can't just take someone's property. That's theft." He ripped a piece of paper off his pad, a ticket, and handed it to her. "You'll need to pay this fine," he said. And you might have to talk to a judge later. Karen's eyes got huge, and her mouth opened like a fish, but no words came out at first. Then she started yelling again. A fine, she shouted, waving the ticket in the air. For a stupid chicken? This is crazy. You can't do this. Her face was red again, and her apron flapped as she stomped her feet. But Officer Daniels didn't even blink. He just crossed his arms and said, "You did the crime, ma'am. Now you pay the price." The other officer nodded, writing more stuff down. Karen looked like she wanted to explode, but there was nothing she could do. The police had her caught, fair and square. And that wasn't all. Karen's HOA friends, the ones who made the neighborhood rules, were there too, and they weren't happy. A lady with glasses and a clipboard stepped over, frowning at Karen. "Karen," she said, "this is bad. Really bad. Stealing a rooster? That's not what an HOA president does." Another guy, with a big hat, chimed in. "Yeah," he said, "we're gonna have a meeting about this. You might not be president anymore." The crowd gasped again, and Karen's jaw dropped for the second time that night. "What?" she shrieked. "Kick me out? You can't. I'm the best president this HOA's ever had." But the lady with the clipboard shook her head. "We'll see about that," she said, walking away with the guy in the hat. They whispered to each other, and I heard words like vote and rules. Karen's fancy president spot, the one she loved so much, was slipping away, and it was all because she messed with Rocket. Her guests didn't stick around either. When the police showed up, people started grabbing their stuff bags, coats, even their kids, and heading for the gate. They whispered and pointed at Karen, their voices all buzzy and fast. "She stole a chicken," one lady said, pulling her purse close. "What a weirdo," a man muttered, tugging his son along. "I'm not eating here," another voice piped up. One by one, they scattered, like leaves blowing away in the wind. The tables were still full of food: potato salad, chips, burgers, but no one touched it. The grill smoked all alone, and the music kept playing to an empty yard. Karen stood there, her arms crossed, glaring at me as I picked up Rocket again. Her apron was crooked now, and her hair was messy from all her stomping. "This isn't over, Jake," she yelled, shaking her fist. Her voice was loud, but it sounded weak too, like she knew she'd lost. I just looked at her, Rocket tucked under my arm, and shrugged. "Yeah, it is," I said, calm and cool. "You messed with the wrong guy and the wrong rooster." Then I turned and walked off, leaving her standing there with her sad, ruined party. I could feel her eyes burning into my back, but I didn't care. Rocket clucked happily, his head bobbing against my side, and that was all that mattered. We crossed the fence back to my yard, the grass cool under my sneakers. The police were still talking to Karen. I could hear her arguing, her voice getting smaller as I got farther away. "It's just a bird," she kept saying, but no one listened. She dug her own hole, and now she had to sit in it. When I got to my porch, I set Rocket down and opened the coop door. "Home sweet home, buddy," I said, giving him a little pat. He strutted right in, flapping his wings like he'd never left. The other chickens clucked softly. They'd been hiding in the back, scared from all the fuss, but Rocket took charge, crowing loud to let them know he was back. "Cock-a-doodle-doo," he sang, and I laughed. That sound? It was the best music ever. I grabbed a handful of corn from the shed and tossed it into the coop. Rocket pecked at it, happy as could be, his feathers shining in the moonlight. The stars were out now, twinkling like little lights, and the neighborhood felt calm again, well, except for Rocket's crowing. That was loud as ever, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I sat down on my porch steps, leaning back on my hands, and just watched him. My heart felt big and warm, like a cozy blanket wrapped around me. Karen's yelled echoed in my head, "This isn't over." But I knew she was wrong. It was over. She got a ticket, her HOA spot was shaky, and her big barbecue was a flop. All her guests ran off, her food went cold, and she was stuck with a big mess. She thought she could sneak around, steal my rooster, and get away with it. But nope. Justice showed up, and it showed up big. She messed with me, and she messed with Rocket, and now she was paying for it. I leaned back, looking up at the sky. The air was cool, and a little breeze rustled the trees. Down the street, I could still see the red and blue lights flashing at Karen's house. The police were wrapping things up, and I heard her gate slam as they left. She'd be mad for a long time, I bet, stomping around her perfect house, muttering about me and Rocket. But that was her problem, not mine. Rocket crowed again, and I smiled. The neighborhood was quieter now, no music, no laughing, just the usual sounds of night. Crickets chirped, a dog barked far away, and the wind whispered through the leaves. It felt good, like everything was back where it belonged. Karen's little stunt didn't win. She tried to take Rocket, tried to ruin my day, but she couldn't. I stood up to her, got help, and brought my Rooster home. That's what mattered. I stretched my arms and yawned, feeling tired but happy. It'd been a crazy day running around, calling the police, crashing Karen's party. But it was worth it. Rocket was safe, strutting in his coop like a king. I patted the railing on my porch and said, "Good night, buddy." He clucked back, soft this time, like he was saying good night too. As I headed inside, I thought about Karen one more time. She'd probably try to glare at me tomorrow, or write me a mean note. But it didn't scare me. She'd lost her power, her HOA crown was wobbly, and everyone knew what she did. She'd think twice before messing with me again. And Rocket? He'd keep crowing, loud and proud, no matter what she thought. I shut the door and kicked off my sneakers, smiling to myself. Justice was served, friends served up big and bold. Rocket was back, Karen was busted, and Maple Grove was mine again. What a day. What do you think? Did Karen get what she deserved? Would you have done the same for your pet? Tell me in the comments, I want to hear all your ideas. This adventure's winding down, but it's been a blast, hasn't it? Hey there, friends. We've made it to the end of this crazy story, and now it's time to sit back and think about what happened. Picture this, I'm on my porch, the stars are shining bright in the sky, and Rocket's safe in his coop, crowing like nothing ever went wrong. The night is calm, the air is cool, and everything feels just right. Karen's barbecue is over, her sneaky plan flopped, and justice won the day. But before we say goodbye, let's talk about what it all means, because this story's got a big lesson, and I want you to hear it. So here's the thing, sometimes, the people who act the loudest, like they're the boss of everything, think they can push everyone else around. You know the type, right? They stomp around, yell a lot, and act like no one can stop them. Karen was like that. She walked through Maple Grove with her nose in the air, telling people what to do, making rules she didn't even follow herself. She thought she was untouchable, like a queen on a throne nobody could knock down. She saw Rocket crowing in my yard, and instead of letting it be, she decided to take him. She thought she could sneak in, grab my Rooster, and get away with it because she was Karen, the HOA big shot. But guess what? She was wrong, super wrong. All it took was one person, me, Jake, and maybe one feisty Rooster Rocket to stand up and show her she wasn't invincible. Invincible means unbeatable, like nothing can hurt you, but Karen wasn't that at all. I didn't let her push me around. I didn't sit quietly while she tried to ruin my day. Nope. I fought back. I asked my friends for help, I called the police, and I crashed her big barbecue with the truth. Rocket helped too. He kept clucking, kept being his awesome self, even when she had him tied up. Together, we proved that loud doesn't mean strong, and sneaky doesn't mean smart. Karen learned that the hard way. Oh boy, did she ever. Her party fell apart, her guests ran off, and the police gave her a ticket. The HOA people even started talking about taking away her fancy president spot. She stood there, all alone with her cold food, yelling at me as I walked away with Rocket. "This isn't over, Jake," she shouted, but we all knew it was. She tried to be the big boss, but she ended up looking silly. I bet she'll think twice before crossing my fence again, maybe even 3 times. She found out that pushing people doesn't always work, especially when those people push back. And that's the cool part, friends. You don't have to be the loudest or the biggest to win. You just have to be brave. I wasn't loud like Karen, I'm just a regular guy who loves his chickens. But I was brave enough to say, "No way, you can't take Rocket." I stood up, even when my tummy was all shaky and my hands were sweaty. Rocket was brave too, he didn't give up, even tied up in that shed. Together, we showed Karen that little guys and little roosters can be tough when it matters. So, what about you? Have you ever stood up to someone who thought they were untouchable? Maybe it was a bully at school, picking on kids just because they could. Or maybe it was a bossy friend who always wanted to be in charge. Or even someone older, like a neighbor or a teacher, who acted like they ruled the world. Did you ever say, "Nope, that's not okay," and do something about it? I'd love to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments below. I'm serious, I wanna know. Tell me who you stood up to, what happened, and how it felt. Were you scared? Did you win? Did you have a feisty rooster to help you out? Okay, maybe not that last one, but you get the idea. Standing up isn't always easy, you know. When I saw Rocket's empty coop, my heart sank. When Karen smirked and said she took care of it, I felt mad and scared all at once. Calling the police? That was a big step. I wasn't sure they'd believe me about a rooster. But I did it anyway. I took a deep breath, made the call, and waited for them to show up. It was hard, but it was worth it. Rocket's back home now, crowing like a champ, and Karen's not so smug anymore. That's what happens when you don't give up. You turn things around, even when they look tough. And here's a little secret, you've got that bravery in you too. Yup, you. Every single one of you reading this has a little spark inside, a spark that says, I can do this. Maybe you haven't used it yet, and that's okay. But it's there, waiting for the right moment. Maybe one day, someone will try to push you around, and you'll feel that spark light up. You'll stand tall, just like I did, and say, no way. Maybe you'll have a rocket by your side, a best friend, a pet, or even a little brother or sister to cheer you on. Or maybe you'll do it all by yourself, strong and brave, showing the loud ones they're not the boss of you. Think about Karen for a second. She was loud, she was bossy, and she thought she'd win. But she didn't. Why? Because loud doesn't mean right. Bossy doesn't mean better. She learned that lesson, and it's a good one for all of us. Next time someone's yelling or acting big, remember this story. Remember Rocket strutting out of that shed, and me grinning as the police showed up. You don't have to be the loudest to be the strongest, you just have to be you, brave and true. I'm sitting here on my porch, thinking about all this, and it makes me smile. Rocket's crowing in the coop, yup, he's still loud too, but in a good way. The stars are twinkling, the crickets are chirping, and Maple Grove feels peaceful again. Karen's probably inside her house, grumbling about her ticket and her ruined barbecue. She might glare at me tomorrow, but I'll just wave and keep going. She doesn't scare me anymore. She tried her worst, and we beat her. That's a win I'll never forget. So, thanks for sticking with me, folks. This wild ride's been full of sneaky neighbors, brave roosters, and a big dose of justice. If you liked it, if it made you laugh, or cheer, or even feel a little braver, give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button too, because I've got more stories coming, and they're gonna be just as fun. I can't wait to tell you another one, maybe about Rocket's next adventure, or something totally new. Who knows? But I'll see you next time, okay? Before I go, let's do one more thing. Close your eyes just for a second and picture yourself standing up to someone big and loud. Picture yourself winning, like I did, with a big grin on your face. Feel that spark inside you, growing bright and strong. You've got it, friends, I know you do. Whether it's a bully, a bossy pants, or even a sneaky rooster stealer like Karen, you can handle it. You're tougher than you think, and don't you ever forget it. Alright, that's it from me and Rocket. Wave goodbye to Maple Grove for now. It's back to being a quiet little place, with a little extra crowing in the mix. Tell me your stories in the comments, give me those thumbs up, and subscribe for more. Thanks for being awesome, and I'll catch you next time with another wild tale. See ya, friends. Alright, friends, we're not done yet. I've got more to say, because this story's got so much heart, and I want you to feel every bit of it. I'm still here on my porch, the night stretching out all calm and quiet, with Rocket clucking softly in his coop. The stars are twinkling like little winks from the sky, and I'm thinking about everything that happened. It's been a wild day, crazy, scary, and awesome all at once, but now it's time to dig a little deeper. Let's keep talking about what this all means, because it's big, and it's for you too. So, like I said before, here's the thing, sometimes the loudest people think they're the strongest. They act like they can boss everyone around, make all the rules, and get whatever they want. Karen was that way, super loud, Super bossy. She strutted through Maple Grove like she owned every house, every tree, every speck of dirt. She'd yell at people for little things, like leaving a bike out or letting a dog bark. And when Rocket started crowing, oh boy, that set her off big time. She didn't just grumble, she decided he had to go. She thought she could sneak into my yard, grab him, and turn him into her barbecue dinner, all because she was the big, loud HOA queen. But here's the cool twist, loud doesn't mean unbeatable. Nope. Karen thought she was invincible, like nothing could touch her, but she was so wrong. All it took was me, just regular old Jake, and my feisty rooster, Rocket, to show her she wasn't as tough as she thought. I didn't have to yell back or be loud like her. I didn't stomp around or make a big fuss. I just stood up. I said, "No way, you can't take my buddy," and I did something about it. Rocket helped too. He kept being his brave, clucky self, even when she had him locked up. Together, we turned her whole plan upside down. Karen learned that the hard way, didn't she? Her barbecue went from fancy to floppy in one night. The police showed up, her guests ran off, and she got a ticket for stealing. The HOA people started whispering about kicking her out of her president spot, her favorite thing. She stood there, yelling at me as I walked away with Rocket, but it didn't mean much. "This isn't over, Jake," she hollered, but we all knew it was. She'd tried to push me around, but I pushed back smart and steady and won. I bet she'll think twice before crossing my fence again. Maybe 3 times. Maybe she'll even hide inside when Rocket crows, scared to try anything sneaky again. That's the big lesson here, friends, you don't have to be loud to be strong. Karen was loud, but she lost. I was quiet, just a guy with chickens, but I won. It's not about shouting or acting big. It's about standing up when it counts. I was scared when I saw Rocket's empty coop. My tummy felt all wobbly, and my hands shook. I was mad when Karen smirked and said she took care of it. And calling the police? That was a huge step. I thought, what if they laugh at me? A Rooster emergency. But I did it anyway. I took a deep breath, dialed the number, and waited. It was tough, but it worked. Rocket's back, Karen's busted, and I feel awesome. So, what about you? I asked this before, but let's dig in more. Have you ever stood up to someone who thought they were untouchable? Maybe it was a kid at school who bossed everyone around, telling you where to sit or what to play. Or maybe a grown-up like a grumpy neighbor who complained about your noise, even when you weren't loud. Did you ever look them in the eye and say, "That's not fair," or do something to fix it? I really want to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments, I mean it. Tell me who it was, what they did, and how you handled it. Did your heart beat fast? Did you feel proud after? I bet you've got some amazing tales, and I'm excited to read every one. Standing up isn't always a big, loud thing. Sometimes it's quiet, like me sneaking around, asking Tom and Sophie for clues. Sometimes it's just deciding not to let someone walk all over you. When Karen took Rocket, I could have stayed quiet. I could have let her have her barbecue and pretended it didn't happen. But that's not me. Rocket's my buddy, my prize-winning, shiny feathered pal, and I wasn't gonna let him go. I got brave, even when I felt small, and it made all the difference. You can do that too, you know. You've got that same bravery inside you, waiting to come out. Picture this, you're at school, and some kid's being mean, taking stuff from your desk. Or maybe you're playing outside, and someone says you can't join because they're in charge. What do? You could sit there, feeling bad, or you could stand up, maybe tell a teacher, or just say, "Hey, stop it." It doesn't have to be loud or scary. It's just you, being you, saying what's right. And guess what? That's enough. It was enough for me and Rocket, and it'll be enough for you too. Karen thought she'd win because she was loud and bossy. She thought I'd give up because I'm just a kid with chickens. But she didn't know me. She didn't know Rocket. We showed her that little guys can be big heroes. You can be a hero too, not with a cape or superpowers, but with that spark of courage in your heart. Maybe you've already done it, or maybe you will someday. Either way, it's there, and it's awesome. I'm still on my porch, leaning back, listening to the night. Rocket's crowing every now and then. Yup, he's loud, but it's a good loud. The stars are so bright, like they're cheering for us. Karen's house is dark now, no more barbecue lights, No more music. She's probably inside, mad as a wet cat, but that's her problem. She tried to push me down, but I bounced back up, and Rocket did too. That's what standing up does, it lifts you higher than the loud ones ever get. Let's think about that for a minute. Karen's loudness didn't save her. Her big talk, her fancy apron, her HOA crown, none of it mattered when the truth came out. She learned she's not untouchable, and that's a lesson for everyone. Next time someone's acting big and mean, remember this: they're not as strong as they look. You've got power too, quiet power, brave power, and it's all you need to turn things around. So, here's a little challenge for you, friends. Next time you see someone being unfair, pushing, bossing, acting like they're better, think of Rocket. Think of him strutting out of that shed, crowing like a king. Think of me, grinning as the police showed up, knowing we'd won. Then take a deep breath and use your spark. Say something, do something, stand up. It doesn't have to be big, just enough to show you're there, and you're not backing down. You'll feel tall, strong, and proud, just like I did. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride. It's been a blast: Rocket getting stolen, Karen being sneaky, the police crashing the party. If you liked it, if it made you smile or cheer, give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button too, because I've got more stories coming your way. Maybe Rocket will get into more trouble, or maybe I'll tell you about something new. Either way, it'll be fun, and I want you along for it. Before I go, let's imagine one more thing. Close your eyes just for a second and see yourself standing up to someone loud. Maybe they're yelling, but you're calm. Maybe they're big, but you're brave. Picture yourself winning, smiling big, with your own Rocket, your best buddy or pet, right beside you. Feel that happy, strong feeling in your chest. That's you, friends, that's your power. Keep it close, because you're tougher than you know. Alright, time to wrap it up. Rocket's crowing one last time. Good night, buddy. Maple Grove is quiet again, and I'm heading inside. Tell me your stories in the comments, I can't wait to read them. Give me those thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time with another crazy tale. You're the best, and don't forget it. See ya soon, friends.